For the next speaker. Yeah? Okay, we have 4 speakers today. There's going to be Dr. Ron Shane next, who's a master authority, brilliant hormonologist for one, in bioidentical hormones. You know, the wonderful alternative to those nasty chemicals and horse urine that a lot of people take, you know. That's more identical with your own true hormones. And also just a master of life and life's teachings. And what's going to be your subject matter today, Dr. Ron? That's a good one.
One that's true to your heart and my heart.
Great. We'll just set you free, whatever comes. And then Dr. Bill Acklenar is going to be up here, and then I'm going to wrap it up. And Bill, your topic is going to be?
We're going to go over the principles of the book, 7 Priceless Prescriptions for Health and Anti-Aging. So we sound interesting.
And then I'm going to wrap up with a Stem Cell 101 and get into some of the more in-depth parts of what's happening out there and what isn't happening. So a lot of great information. Also, Dr. Ron, he master martial arts, dance, so many things, you know.
I love regenerative medicine.
Yes.
Love it.
And he's a spokesperson for, if you all know the A4M, those of you who know the A4M group, and lectures in many colleges and institutes. So we're fortunate, very fortunate to have you here with us today. So turn you loose, Ron. Dr. Ron.
Thank you very much. I should have it somewhere here because I'm going to be referring to it. Any way we can hold it. Sorry. I have it higher because I'm going to actually be referring to it. How do I move my PowerPoint on it?
Summer?
Okay. Okay. Okay, good, perfect. Okay, thank you. Dr. Smith for inviting me here, as well as creating a institute where all of you on a global level can really study what is actually very apropos to the human psyche. So what I'm going to try to do today is to integrate in an easy manner a lot of information. I've been studying since I was 18, so I've been at it probably many decades. From everything from the social sciences, humanities, the medical arts, etc. So what I'm going to try to do is make some sense of things that you probably don't really realize. Now, the notion of health, as defined by the American Western medical groups, is really not too interesting. It's functional. Functional means that you could be kind of catatonic and you're still breathing without a ventilator. Or it could be that you're able to break 9 boards with a sidekick. So what I'm interested in is how we can optimize the body's physiology. Because if we're on this planet, the most important thing to do is, in Darwin's vision, is to be optimal, to really comprehend what it takes to take your physiology and your deeper physiology, integrate it together to where you're optimizing all aspects of yourself. Because if you can't do that, you're not going to have a quality of existence. If you're depressed, you have a hard time stopping your eating. You have a difficult time, let's say, bringing your blood pressure under control, or your glucose, where you have anxiety, you can't sleep. Gonna have much quality of life? Absolutely not. So what I'm gonna try to do is to inspire you to change even the smallest aspect of your life. Now, I give a lot of lectures to doctors in Asia, in other places, about everything from hormones to how to abate regional or systemic inflammation. Now, I'm not going to be as tedious as I would if this was a medical lecture, because medical doctors want to know what they can take from a lecture and translate it into their patients. And I think most of you are probably not trained in Western medicine, so I'm not going to really tire you or fatigue you with constructs that may not be relevant to you. And Dr. Smith will be talking about regenerative medicine or stem cells, where he's going to get you into a science aspect. So let me try to speak to you. How many of you are actual students in the University of Natural Medicine? Okay, there's a few. How many have had some influence with medical science? Okay, so this is basically a public that's not too familiar. Now, this symbol, how many can tell me what it means? Anybody? Except for Dr. Smith? Okay, what does it mean? Yeah, well, it is a sign of medicine, but what does it mean? Okay, yes.
I'm just going to take a step back and talk. I mean, snakes are super related with Kundalini energy and like how that relates to like just like holistic sense of health.
Not exactly. Yes.
Asclepius was the Greek god of medicine, and this was his symbol.
Okay,
And
let's take a
snakes
step.
were power.
Okay, that's not bad. You know, that's let's take this back to, if Joseph Campbell is correct, let's take this back maybe 30,000 years ago, 40,000 years ago, 50,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago. Let's take this to a level that really is universal to this human phenotype and maybe universal to other entities that we have not yet physically recognized. There is a system. This represents ultimate health. Now, in my view, every human on this planet should be striving to have this level of clarity. Unfortunately, in the Western world, most medical doctors who have gone through 4 years undergrad, 4 years of medical school, 4 years of residency, and been in practice for 20 years, they have this symbol, they don't know what it means. So if they don't know what the symbol means, then do they know how to internalize the symbol? Do they know how to manifest it in their life? Do they know how to disseminate it to their patients? Absolutely not. Now, as a martial art master and Kundalini yoga master, if I don't know what this means, I should burn up my certificates, burn my various black belts, and sit on the street corner and beg for mercy. Okay? That's what I should do. So let me try to introduce this to you. Now, many of you have no concept of chakras. Now, if you're really interested in this topic, after I complete this lecture, you can go online and buy Joseph Campbell's Mythic Image or some of my books that I, in depth, talk about this. There's a system, whether you're living in a part of Africa or if you're living in South America, called chakras. Now, there's many, many different definitions of that. But there seems to be a universal perspective that there's an interfacement between lethargic, if you can't sleep, if you're consumed with anxiety, if you can't focus, if your hormones are dysregulated, if your lower gastrointestinal system is problematic, are you going to be able to even think about this? Absolutely not. So the beginning stage of this whole process means that you, not your family practitioner, not your life coach, not your parents, not your daughters, not your friends, but you have to take responsibility of your physicality. And you can't go online and the internet and find all the psychobabble on the subject, because these people are as confounded as you might be. So you have to really take the rigor of understanding your body's basic physiology. When I went to Western Medical School, I was surprised by the complexity and clarity that Western consciousness understands about the body's basic physiology. So my advice for everyone in this room is to buy a basic book in physiology to really understand about pulmonary function, hepatic function, cardiac function. So you begin to understand what's going on. You know, if you look at the body, and if you don't understand what's going on with your body, how do you expect to see your internist or your family practitioner who's overstressed, sees too many patients, is looking at his watch or her watch because they got to get you out of there quick because they got to see the next patient. So who's going to really cover your health care? Who's going to take responsibility of it? Is it your family practitioner? I probably know somewhere in a range of about 40 doctors on a very intimate level. And I can tell you their learning curve in terms of their interest in spending time with their patients might be very small, because they can't afford it. They got to pay their overhead, they got to pay their insurance, they don't have time to take care of it. If you get anything from my talk, it will be that you need to understand, you need to go to the University of Natural Medicine if you're not already enrolled, and start to learn about your body. Because as you age, if you don't know about your body, most of the doctors that you're going to see are not going to have the time to really devote you. And many of themselves are probably a little bit quiescent in terms of their own learning curve on these issues. So it's up to you to take control of your life, which is your health. If you're not taking control of your health, again, no one else will. So you have to spend the time. If you're sitting home after working or whatever you do, watching TV, you should pick up a basic book in physiology. So you know what is optimal. You know about cardiac function. You know about the left ventricle. You know about ejection fraction. You understand what happens if you have a mild infarction. You understand about endothelial cells. You understand about dilation and constriction of blood vessels. You understand about that nutrition, which is a major factor, can really optimize you in an epigenetic manner or compromise you. Last night I went out to dinner. I had green lettuce, green cucumbers, salmon, tomatoes, no dressing, nothing else. It's a pretty good meal. I'm not going to have too many side effects with it. So you have to understand what you can do for the brain. It is estimated that 25% of humans who are over the age of 65 will have some degree of cognitive decline. Some of them might even move into Alzheimer's. So can you prevent this? There is not any L-DOPA medication right now. There isn't any medication whatsoever that can prevent Alzheimer's. Nothing on the planet yet. I believe, from my perspective, that if you're taking growth hormone and you're optimizing your life, and you're really vigorously exercising, you're going to get a lot of growth factors that may abort some of the changes within the cytoplasm of various neurons. You may upregulate the effects of astrocytes and glia, so you might be able to really change that condition. According to the literature on the subject, living a judicious lifestyle is right now the best strategy to abate that disease. It is the best. Now, what is a judicious lifestyle? Is it sitting around having about 30, 40 pounds on your body, your blood pressure is off the roof, your glucose is untreated, it's at 130, it's active glucose, your hemoglobin A1C is over 8. Is that being optimal? And you barely walk from your house to your car to your office? Is that being optimal? You haven't read a book in 20 years? Is that being optimal? Absolutely not. While you're, from my perspective, while you're in the physical body, it's not to retire. It's to activate it. And most people don't understand what it is to activate it. People ask me, why do I exercise 2.5 hours a day? Why do I continue to write books? Because I don't want the consequences of not doing it. There's a concept called epigenetics. If you haven't heard of it, when you have some free time, begin to understand this. Because there is now in the medical community, they're saying that your genotype is really not the factor, it's your phenotype. Now, you obviously, in most instances, maybe some people do, or some entities do, have control over what collection of genes you're going to get from your mother and your father. There's a lot of permutations. But you do have control over how these genes will be expressing proteins. You absolutely have control on that issue. Absolutely 100%. And this is what is really fascinating about living in the 21st century, that you do have that level of control. You absolutely do have that. What does that mean? That means that you can take control over how your body remodels. Now, I'm going to give for people that are not trained in molecular biology a 3-minute course on what happens to your body. There's a cell, and these cells have 10,000 receptors on the phospholipid membrane. And at any given moment, if you are an intact physiological organism, thousands of proteins are going to bind to the various receptors. Now, if you don't get the right proteins, so when these receptors are stimulated, you're going to get I know this is boring you, so I'm going to kind of go through it really quick because you don't want to hear about basic physiology. But the point is, and I'm trying to make this simple, your body translates proteins. If you're not translating the right proteins, you might wake up one morning and go, okay, Or you can wake up one morning open because your body is optimized. So it's up to you. It's up to you to really take control. And this has nothing to do with basic psychology. This has nothing to do with your philosophy. Has nothing to do with your epistemology. Has nothing at all to do with it. I know Nikki wants me to deal with this. But I can't deal with this unless I have a body that's healthy to deal with it. You know, I can tell you in 5 seconds the 7 chakras, I can talk to you about the activation of the Kundalini complex on the body, but unless the body is healthy, we can't really talk about it. I think Dr. Smith's intent for practitioners of naturopathic medicine is to motivate your clients or patients to begin the process of optimizing their health status. Western medical school does not teach that. There's not one course I took, and I was there for 2 years, that actually spoke about that. Nothing. Now, you do know that many of early humans have emergency rooms, didn't have hospitals, couldn't go to the doctor, and if they couldn't function, they didn't eat. Pretty simple. It had to be optimal. If you had a sore muscle, you had to throw a spear. If you had, your legs weren't feeling good, you had to punch somebody because you had to survive. We were primeval organisms. Well, it's only been after 8,000 years when, after the last Pleistocene period, that we became more, let's say, in larger clusters. Prior to that, we were in small tribal units. Very small tribal units. Lucy, am I communicating to you? Am I being clear? Good. Okay, I'm not going too far. So it's important to really understand, and again, my focus of my talk is for you to become your expert medical practitioner, because you can't rely on anyone else. So let's get into what it takes to take your bodies. How many of you, and I know the answer obviously, spend several hours a day doing mind-body strategies for your body, doing stretching, doing fast twitch exercises? I know you do, Nikki. And doing musculoskeletal resistance training. Probably no one, because currently right now, the latest statistics on the situation is 92% of people living in America barely walk 10,000 steps a day. Most people do not walk 10,000 steps a day. So, many of you have heard about the concept of evolution, right? You all understand what that means. So, 250 million years ago, when the dinosaurs were still around, there's a new organism that evolved called mammals. Mammals had to move all day. We moved all day long. We were active all day long. So we weren't sitting in an office, looking at a screen, playing with our cell phone, hitting their screen, trying to find something that is interesting, for 9 hours a day. We didn't have to drive in traffic, sometimes an hour a day. We didn't have partners that were to us either. So the situation is, this is a conundrum. This is a very strange type of reality. This reality is kind of insane because it's retrograde to the optimization of the human phenotype. I feel myself that, because I do a lot of studying, right now I'm working on 2 books, and I have 3 research projects going, so, I'm doing a sufficient amount of studying. I have to coerce myself 2 to 3 hours a day of exercise to maintain the functionality of not my peripheral body, but my brain. There's a thing called brain-derived growth factors. And these are growth factors that sit on the cell receptors of neurons that induce certain types of proteins. So if you don't get those proteins, your brains are not going to be healthy. So it's very important to exercise not for having muscles, having brain functionality. How many of you know what the word homeostasis really means? Anybody? Anybody knows what the word homeostasis means? Yes. Pardon me? Yeah, it's a balance. But what it really means is that every organ system, whether it's your glomerular fraction going into your kidneys, or whether it's how your heart works, or how your fibroblasts in your skin actually work, everything in the body has evolved to be homeostatic. So when you're no longer homeostatic, you become allostatic. Allostatic is a dysregulation of the body's phenotype. So in order to begin to understand what this means, to really understand what this is talking about, you have to be optimal. If you look at many indigenous tribes, they're not overweight. They exercise every day. They have to work every day. They have to move every day. They have to be very operative. That they don't have the luxury of sitting in their car or sitting in their houses. They have to do some type of activity. Now, let me get back to what this means. According to Joseph Campbell and many others who have looked at humans from a cross-cultural perspective, not the U.S., not Europe, there seems to be a universal phenomenon. This represents the different levels of the chakras. Now, when your chakras are open, if they are open, anyone has ever felt any of your chakras open, your body has to be open. So I don't want to give you a perspective that you can sit on a rock like they do, like certain practitioners in India, and just sit there and meditate all day. That's not what I'm talking about. Because humans didn't do that. This is a new phenomenon. No one did that. But when you're doing your activities, you can begin to start to think about this. There's a element, and I've written a book on it, called the mental eye, which is a universal phenomenon. This is what it is, right here. This is your mind's eye. Now, the mind's eye just doesn't sit in the forehead where supposedly where the pineal gland is, and it's not involved in the release of melatonin. It has nothing to do with melatonin. Melatonin is something that's released in a very small little endocrine secretory system, and helps to regulate the light and darkness or sleepy. So the mind's eye is something very different. It's this right here. And if you really have ever achieved any level of inner consciousness, like Dr. Smith, who's very strong in his mental eye and sees in a ubiquitous fashion, you would understand what this is. Now, in order to have any level of optimization, you have to understand what the mental eye is. Whether you read poetry, whether you read about synesthesia, when you read people that have taken ayahuasca, whether you read people that are in indigenous ecstatic rituals, it's always the mind's eye that's very important. Now, the mind's eye, as I learned working on this book about 12, 14 years ago, doesn't just sit right here. It has collaterals of energy that permeates all aspects of the human's body. Now, Kant, you know Kant, was very kind in his works to talk about how the physicality of the body and a more subtle part of the body bifurcate. They really don't bifurcate. They're actually interfaced in a synergistic manner. So that's why I'm talking to you about the health of your body. How many of you, right now, from talking, from listening to what I'm saying, are ready to make some changes in your lifestyle? Excellent, excellent. Now, one of the things, if you become acquainted with the mind's eye, you can see energy. You can see what really is circulating in somebody. Not necessarily their lymphatic or blood, but you can actually see energy. If I look at somebody, I can tell you everything about their energy. Because I used to practice Oriental medicine, and I need to know where to put needles. I need to understand which large channels are blocked if there's no energy flow. I mean, you can, I'm going to be theatrical here. Okay, here's somebody. You can see this person's energy is not good. Or here's somebody that's just vibrant, really out there and really alive. I mean, I can tell everyone's health status by just looking at their energy flow. Energy flow is really important. But in Western culture, we've kind of taken the cortex and we've had it kind of convoluted on itself to where deeper perception is no longer part of our realities. So getting back to this. So, this particular level of health. Now, Western medicine, Eastern medicine, indigenous medicine, Oriental medicine should have one focus. Maybe naturopathic medicine, and in my view it is actually the highest form of medicine because it, at least in my master's program and PhD program, no student would ever get out of that program